Marks has been involved in this project and is excited about this new gateway into his city. In fact, later this morning, he's mayor, but he's going to be acting as chauffeur, and he'll tell you about that in a minute, transporting a very special person who's with us this morning, who attended this very ceremony for the old bridge 61 years ago. So he'll be a chauffeur as well today. Please welcome the Mayor of Kaiser, Mayor Randy M. Towery.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, special guest. It gives me great pleasure as your mayor to represent the great city of Kaiser, West Virginia, and welcome each and every one of you into our city on this very special day to celebrate the opening of the new Memorial Bridge. Some 61 years ago, some of the finest people stood in an area very close to where we stand and sit today. They too were here for a celebration. They were here to celebrate the opening of what we began to refer to as the old Memorial Bridge. We can only guess some of the thoughts that may have been going through their minds. That's beautiful, or it's amazing, or maybe it just don't get any better than this. Well, here we are today, 6 decades later, and I'm sure some of those same thoughts may have passed through our minds today. But the proof is here, just behind us, as we look out over this amazing structure. A little wider, a little taller, maybe a little different in construction. What we see is the evolution of time and what it creates, meeting the needs of our people. What we see for some maybe be an inconvenience or just difference in appearance. But what we know is that will soon become the new norm. In a matter of months, the old bridge will come down. It will remain only in our memories, our photos, and our history books. This represents the gateway into our city, and this truly is a great day for Kaiser. I'd like to take an opportunity to recognize just a few special guests in our audience today. First I'd like to recognize is there's members of the Congressman Harley O. Staggers family with us today. Mr. Staggers served his country as a veteran of the U.S. Navy and also continued to serve as a U.S. Congressman representing the 2nd Congressional District from 1949 to 1981. Mr. Staggers stood just a short distance behind you for the opening of what we now refers to as the old Memorial Bridge. Today we have with us members of his family. After all of your names is called, would you please stand to be recognized? We have Mary Kay Staggers and her husband David Webb. We have Miss Susan Tasker and husband Richard. We have Mr. Harley O. Staggers Jr. and wife Leslie, and Mr. Danny C. Staggers. Thank you all for attending. Next we have Mr. Marion Dorsey. Mr. Dorsey was the Senior Vice Commander, District 3, Department of Maryland, Veteran of Foreign Affairs. And he too held the ribbon for the cutting of the old Memorial Bridge and was a part of the VFW Honor Detail. Mr. Dorsey, would you please stand to be recognized? The next person I'd like to recognize, there was a section of 16mm footage of the opening of the old bridge. That was transferred by the Department of Highways to a DVD. I had the pleasure of viewing that. It was about a 4-minute clip. But in this clip, we saw scuttling around a curious teenager. That teenager was identified as Mr. Joseph Hollingsworth, and he's here with us today. The next person I'd like to recognize is Miss Gladys Calamine. Miss Calamine was the first resident, not in a political or a construction role, to cross the old bridge. Gladys crossed the bridge in a pickup truck with her husband, who at the time was the yard master for the B&O Railroad. At the age of 99 years of age, she is with us today. She is seated in the front row. We're so glad that she could attend with us today. And she will also be riding across the new bridge today, once again being the first resident in a non-political or construction role to cross the new bridge. Gladys, welcome. We're so glad you could attend. The next person I'd like to recognize is Mr. Arnold Bailey. Mr. Bailey is 92 years of age, and he was a construction worker on the old bridge. Mr. Bailey worked on construction from the West Virginia side all the way to the Maryland side. He worked in the role of building forms, finishing concrete, as he described it, just whatever needed done. He shared some conversations with me in regards to some stories about the construction of the bridge. And I'd like to share just a couple of those with you. He stated that while they were working on the superstructure, they didn't have the high lifts of today. Their high lift was a 3-section extension ladder set on the back of a truck. They climbed from the bed of a truck up to the superstructure. They worked their way across with boards. And while they were working over top of the B&O Railroad, he said we had to continuously be aware for oncoming trains, because the exhaust of the engines at that time, when they passed through where they were working, they moved everything that wasn't fastened down and suffocated everything that was there. So they had to immediately scuttle to get away from the area of the tracks when the trains were coming through. He also stated that one morning, while they were working under the bridge, they were approached by a gentleman seeking employment. He was present there with himself and a foreman on the project. The gentleman approached and asked for the employment. The supervisor at the time responded, "Can you climb?" The gentleman responded, "I think so." He said, "Well, there's a ladder, let's see. That's your employment test." The gentleman began to climb the ladder. As he reached the end of the first section of a three-section ladder, he paused. He looked down at the gentleman below, and he immediately began to descend the ladder. When he reached the bottom, he approached the two gentlemen, and his response was, "I don't think I want this job." This makes us see how the times have changed and how we have changed to meet the needs of our people. From the citizens that use our bridge systems, to the workers that build them, to our political leaders of all levels that make the projects a reality. This is a great day for the city of Keizer, the state of West Virginia, and our Maryland neighbors to the north. On behalf of the city of Keizer, thank you all.